Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1. What is up, everybody? Brian Mendler back in your life on another edition of the podcast. And today I am super excited to be joined by James Smithson. And James, I got to tell you, man, first of all, good to have you, number one. And number two, you are my very first teaching assistant / paraprofessional to join me on the show. So thank you for coming on, and I appreciate you being here.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So I want to kind of give people a little bit of background of how I met you. I was doing a consulting session basically last week, and what I do when I do this, and just to tell my listeners, is I meet with groups of teachers in small groups, and basically I tell them, we go around the room and I say, tell me who you are, what you do, and potentially one thing that you've overcome in your life, something that's made you a stronger, better person. And you started sharing your story, and it was so remarkable and amazing to me that I said, I got to have this guy on my podcast. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about who you are, and maybe actually start that way. So who you are, what you do, and one thing you've overcome in your life.
Okay. So I'm James Smithson, as Brian said. I am a teaching assistant at Central Valley Academy. I work in the life skills room, grades 5 through 8. And something I've overcome, I would say still going through in my life, is being legally blind. It's been a struggle, but I'm finally at that point where things are starting to turn around, and it's, going really good right now. So,
what was so sort of inspirational and impressive to me was, you said you're legally blind, but you didn't know you weren't always legally blind. So
no.
take me through the story of what happened.
Okay. So everything was pretty normal, right up until about 24. Let me think. I was diagnosed with diabetic retinopathy in 2008, and I was only at stage 1. So I just had to make sure that I kept going to my yearly appointments to see my retinologist. I had to just, diabetic control, making sure I was, taking care of myself really good. And in 2011 is when I first started to notice the change. And my appointment was actually in 1 week. So my doctor had, told me that if I could hold out for 1 week, if I didn't notice any other changes, I should be fine until my doctor's appointment. Well, the next day I woke up, and it's almost like when you're in the shower and you get water in your eyes, and you're just like, you try to rub to get it out because you're so tired. And I kept rubbing, and it wouldn't go away. So I got really nervous. I called my doctor. I wasn't able to drive or anything. So luckily my mother only lived 2 blocks away, and she came over, picked me up. We went right up to the doctor's. I had to have pictures of my eyes. I had to have an IV put in. I can't tell you the name of the process that they did, but they, oh God, this is taking me back.
What was their goal? What was their goal in that during that visit? Were they trying to diagnose still and figure out what was wrong?
Well, diabetic retinopathy has 3 stages. So the first stage is, you're pretty good. You can live with it. Your eyes are still good. You could still drive. You can do pretty much most of anything. Stage 2 is where you start doing laser surgeries to stop the process. And then stage 3 is the highest. So pretty much by the time you hit stage 3, your retinas are no longer like the greatest. So when I had woke up that morning and went to the doctors, had all those tests done and everything, they sat me down in his office, and they told me I was at stage 3. They took away my driver's license right then and there. And they took me out of work. From there, I had to have tons, oh my God, over 15 laser surgeries on each eye. Later, I had to have my retina's reconnected. First, my left eye, because my left eye is my better eye. And then 2 years later, after my left eye was healed, I had to have my right eye done, which made my right eye worse, but it's still, manageable now since all the surgeries and stuff. So it's been a long process. I've had to have injections in my eye and both of my eyes and everything. So, but
how
so
many,
far,
sorry, go ahead, finish.
no, go ahead. No,
I was going to say, I might've missed that. How many surgeries did you say you've had on each eye? About?
laser surgeries, I've had about 15 on each. And then with the reconnective surgeries, they were only once on each eye. And the injections, oh God, I'm trying to think. I've only had one injection in my left eye, and that was for the pressure that I get behind my eyes due to the surgeries. And that was like a antibiotic type thing to help lower the pressure. And then the other eye, my right eye, I've had to have like 3, I think, injections. 2 in like the tissue underneath your eye, and then 1 right into my eye I had to have.
Amazing. So
Yeah.
What's it like to go through that? I mean, what's it like when you sit down and the doctors tell you that, you're not only are you legally blind, but there's no going back, right? Like
Yeah.
at least yet, like there's no going back. What is it like to hear that?
I was fine. I was really strong at the doctor's office. Of course, I was like, what do you mean? Like, you're not going to let me drive anymore? Like, I think that was like a big shock, and at that time I was in first grade at that time, and it was my 3rd year in, and I was like,
You were teaching first grade. You were working in
yes,
first grade.
yes, yes. And I said, the kids, like, this, I knew that's what I was meant to do. And I wanted to continue to do that, but unfortunately, with the way my eyes were, I couldn't. So I was fine until I got into the car with my mom, and then I kind of lost it. I started like crying really bad.
Sure.
I was really, it was almost like I went into a super deep depression really quick. And I was trying to figure out, okay, what's my next step? Like, what am I going to do? I knew that I needed to take care of this problem as soon as possible. But I knew that my doctor, who I have been with since the beginning, has been amazing. So I knew that I could trust him with what I needed to have done and what I have had done. Like, continuously, he has been the best doctor. So it was just more of a, do I go get a second opinion, or do I, where do I go from here?
Yeah.
And everything worked out,
So what
8
happened
years
next?
later.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay. So you're working in first grade at the time when you find out this news. Do you then go
mhm.
back to school and tell the kids and tell like people at the school? What was the next step?
Well, I had to finish out like my vacation time that I had left over from school, because, we always get like an extra, your personal days, your sick days. So I had to finish that out. And then the school put me in for the sick bank, which put me out for the rest of the year. I had kids send me big envelopes of the cards that they made me through the classroom, and they sent me home a bunch of presents and stuff, which actually very sweet of them. I mean, the kids are still amazing. They're seniors this year, and I see some
Wow.
of them,
Those are the
and they're
first
like,
graders. They were first graders
yeah,
at the time and now they're seniors.
seniors, yeah. So I see some of them, like, just, if I'm out someplace, when I'm out someplace, or if we're at professional development at the high school, then, if some of them are in there doing like their stuff that they need to do, I see some of them and they're like, oh, Mr. Smithson, you're finally back. Like, how are you? And so it's nice to see them. But they, the cards and the presents, although sweet, made me really sad. Because I was like, God, I'm missing out on so much with them. But the school was really kind to push me through with the sick bank leave to the end of the year. They were hoping that I would return for the 2011 to 2012 school year, but unfortunately, due to my eyes, I wasn't able to. So they kept me on the callback list for like 7 years. I guess it's like the longest time they can keep you on. And, I was out of work at that time. The 7 years came up and I still wasn't able to go back. So when I finally could go back the very next year, they called me back in September of 2000 and I couldn't remember this last time we talked. I think 2017, maybe it was 18. I can't remember, but they called me in September, offered me a position back. And I said, unfortunately, I'm really sorry. I can't right now. My doctor still wouldn't release me to go back to work. And then finally, that March, he signed the papers for me to go back to work.
Why was he not releasing you to go back to work then?
I have a lot of restrictions. I cannot like lift heavy. I cannot push, pull. I'm not supposed to like I'm trying to think of what else I'm not supposed to do. It's been so long, it's kind of normal to me not to do them anymore.
Sure.
So it's just a lot of different things that I'm not supposed to do because only 1/3 of my retina is producing like blood flow to my eye. And so if that part was to detach, I would be fully black in my eye.
Okay.
So,
and so what's it like now? Like what do you see now when you with you? I know you're legally blind. What do you actually see?
I can see pretty much everything. Distance, a far distance is really hard for me. I'm really blurry. Like I told you about the shower with the blurry in my eyes. I still have that a lot. Some days my eyes are better than others. I can see color, which a lot of the kids think I can't. They're always asking me, "Are you colorblind?" I'm like, "No, I'm not colorblind." But I can see, the closer I am, the better I am with seeing, so that's, it is a struggle. Like I get very, very like on myself about it because I'm like, you can do this, like don't let it get to you. But sometimes it still does get to me because I just want to be the best person that I can be.
So how does this influence your job today? Okay, so fast forward me, right? So what do you do today? Who do you work with, and how does it how does that influence your job today and impact your job today?
I work with Lisa Murphy. She's awesome with me. We co-teach the room very well. We're both on the same page on how we want things to be done.
Are you high school kids now or middle school kids?
Middle school.
Middle school, right?
Middle school. Yeah, middle school. Our middle school goes up to 8th and then high school starts at 9. So I have my magnifiers. I have the larger text like printouts. We're really good. We, labeled all the cupboards with like big printouts of what's in each cupboard.
Nice.
When we did all the organization during the first part of the school year. And, I do like all the groups that I do and everything that I do with the kids, I try to keep it in my range, but when they're 5 through 8, we have 4 different grades in there. So we have many different groups that we need to keep busy because a lot of them, we're considered a life skills class, but a lot of them are, right on their grade level. They're really not, I consider our class more 15-1 than I do a life skills. But, how
many kids you guys have in there right now?
We started out with 13. now we have 11. So 11, not every day do we have 11, but we, the majority of the time we have all 11 in the classroom. But the kids are awesome, and they're just, they're at that age where they're starting to ask more questions about it because, they're curious about it, but they're cool with it. They're not like, oh, wow, that's really weird. Or, why do you need that? Or why do you, they're like, they ask a couple questions, I tell them, and they're like, oh, okay. Like, that's cool. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
And you're pretty much an open book with the kids as well, right? I mean, you have
Yes.
no reservations. Did you ever have any reservations about talking about it with the kids? Did that ever come in, or have you always from the start been felt like,
Um,
I don't mind talking about this?
well, when I first started back 3 years ago, I worked with Melissa Harris. She's a fifth grade English teacher. And she pushed and pushed to get me to work with her. And we had, I want to say, I'm trying to think if it was, I don't remember if it was Herkimer Bosse's or if it was the Central Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired. I don't know if they came in to do a presentation, and they had a lot of people who were blind, but they were showing them that they could still work. And we went to the auditorium / cafeteria and sat there and listened to them. And all the kids were like in awe. They were like, oh my God, that lady's blind and she's sewing, or this guy is doing
Crazy.
this. And they just do, I even think it's crazy. I go to to Central Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired. And, these people are sitting in this room, and like, I feel with the vision I do have left, I couldn't even do what they do.
Wow.
So it's very
What do you
inspiring.
see them do?
They're, they're literally sitting at tables and sewing machines, and they're sewing
That's incredible.
like like big sewing machines, and they're like clicking, they know what to do, everything. I see them, they're packaging like gloves and masks, and they're like, they just know, like, the box comes in front of them. I don't know if the box stops, and they're just doing their things. Like, there's so many different jobs right at CABV that, these people are doing, and they're doing it really, really well. I give them like tons of props, because at first I didn't think I'd be able to do anything. And they almost like inspired me to say, like, if they can do that, I can definitely do what I do. So it's crazy to me.
It is. It is. It's so do you feel like since this has happened and sort of either not just with yourself, but with the people that you see sitting at the sewing machines, do you feel like there's a heightened sense of, like, I don't even know how to best put it. Like, do you feel like your other senses have improved? Like, a lot of people say that, you just become a better listener and a better at other things when you lose one thing.
Definitely. The kids always say to me, Mr. Smithson, how'd you hear me say that? I'm like, I can hear everything. They're like, you're like a superhero. I'm like, literally, my farthest student could be all the way over the other side of the room, and he'll be talking, and I can hear the whole conversation. My sense of smell, like, sometimes good, sometimes bad, but like, I can smell like anything, and people will be like, I don't smell anything. I'm like, oh, it's getting stronger, like, closer, like, you'll smell it, believe me.
I wasn't
And
sure if that was because of that, or because you have 4 dogs and maybe you've taken on how dogs have the best sense of. You have 4 dogs,
yeah,
by the way, right? What kind of
four,
dogs do you
yes,
have?
four. I have two. They're half Maltese, half Yorkies. Those are my girls, Olive and Doris. And then my boys are Mojito and Martini. And Mo is Chihuahua, and Martini is mix. He's a rescue.
Are they
So,
cool? Are the dogs cool with each other?
oh my God, they all love each other. Yeah, they're really good with each other. They all play. I mean, Mo and Olive's the oldest. She's kind of a loner, but so is Mo, who's the Chihuahua. They kind of just do their own thing, but if they want to be bothered, then they're bringing the babies to you. They're up in your face, and they want to play and they want to be
Right.
on you. And then the other two kind of like they're like best friends. They're always palling around and doing everything together.
Are
So
they cool with other dogs, or do they have the little man syndrome?
no, they're all cool with other dogs. My mom has a lab, and they absolutely love her. Um, my brother has a God, I can't even think of what she is. He got her from the pound. I think she's part Mastiff and part something else.
Mm.
And she's a big girl, but they love to just hang off from her, and she loves it. So
Yeah.
it's they're good company.
I was
Very
reading
good
I was
company.
reading an article yesterday that dogs are the only thing in the world that love you more than you love yourself, right? Like,
Ex-
how cool is that?
Yes.
And I have two of
Yes.
them, so I'm a huge dog guy, and we have a great yard for dogs. We have a fully fenced in yard, and we have a bunch of dogs on our street, and so there's always dogs over at my house. We just have dog parties here where people like bring
Yeah.
I'm like, just come over anytime you want, come right through the back gate. People just I'll see a neighbor come walking in with their dog, and they just run full sprints around the yard. It's the best.
Yeah,
It's
it
my
is.
favorite thing.
It is. It's I do the same thing. Like, if my friends come, I'm like, bring the dogs. Like, I consider them human too, because like you said, they have their own personalities. You know, they do what they want, but they also, you know, they get me through a lot too.
Funny
So,
story. We're in the process of moving, right? So we're moving to Florida, and we're selling our house, and that we had somebody come walk through our house the other day, and our realtor said that one of the people who walked through complained that it smelled like a dog, right? And
oh
I said to my
gosh.
wife, I said, I'm not selling the house to them. I said, I don't want to sell the house to anybody who doesn't like dogs. If you don't like
Dogs.
dogs, you're not buying our house. This is what I said. I said, they can have the full amount of money. I'm not selling it to them. Like, the dog house. I'm like, smells like dogs. Who says that? I was so
Yeah,
annoyed.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I can't stand that either. I have four of them, and I'm like, they get on the furniture. It's not like, the girls go to the groomers. The boys do go too, but not as much as the girls, because the girls are long haired. So, but I possibly might be selling my house too, actually, to move to Rochester.
Get out.
And yeah, and um I'm not really sure yet. We're still waiting on some news before we do decide to do that.
Well,
So
I got to ask the follow up. So why Rochester? So you would potentially leave the school and move here. I say here, I live in Rochester. Why here? Saying to do the same job still, or would you do something else?
um probably the same job. The reason is my partner is a pharmacist out there.
Mm,
Um and he works for Trillium. I don't know if you're familiar with Trillium. Um and right now he's out there doing COVID shots and all that stuff. So he transports back and forth Rochester
mm.
all week long, and then he's home on the weekends. So
Okay, that's a hike.
yeah, so he's gone usually Sunday night until Friday night,
Mm.
and then but
Yeah, it's a lot. That's a lot.
yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot. So, but I have my job here.
Yeah.
I've been here for 3 years. I don't really want. I've been in my house now. It'll be 6 years in July, and I don't really want to uproot everything because
Yeah.
I'm used to everything.
Hmm.
But I also think that I know that, I've been out to Rochester many of times, and they're more of a blind friendly
Mm.
community more. And I think, I've been around here most of my life, you know, I think a change would do me good. And I
And
also think
look,
that,
where you just for people to listening, where you're in a small town, right? I mean,
yes.
you live in a small town, and so when you say more blind friendly, I just think we're a bigger city, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
the other thing is we have RIT here, Rochester Institute of Technology, which is deaf. I mean,
Yeah.
which is deaf, right? That was not the best way to say that, but it is. They have a large deaf population there, and so I think just sort of and just in general in Rochester, we're known to be incredibly tolerant people, just so you know
Yes. Yeah, no, definitely.
that.
Not only that, but they also, we have the Central Association for the Blind, because, I don't know how they divide that up or whatever, but
Mm,
um Rochester has the Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired.
mm,
Um Also, I do a lot with the Commission for the Blind, which is, their main office is based out of Syracuse, but actually Trillium, right upstairs from Trillium, is the Rochester branch of the Commission for the Blind.
oh wow.
So um my ultimate goal would be, if I do move, I would love to become a TAVI, which is or possibly even go farther and be a TVI, which would be a teacher of the visually impaired.
Yeah.
um, I have a lot of the classes that I already need for that. There's just a couple more that I think I have, like 6 more that I have to obtain to get that certification. And then I would love to work, you know, I love what I do now because I want the kids to know that, like, it's okay, if you have, I hate to say disability, because it's, to
I
me,
know.
that word kind of, yeah, I may have a disability, but like you said, you wouldn't notice that I
Right.
had a disability.
Well,
And
plus, the reason I don't love that word is because, like you just said, like I always feel like even if you struggle in one area, you're better in other areas, right? And
yeah,
so, right,
it kind of, it goes back, like, yeah, like, and plus with you, like, I know, with your meetings and stuff that we did through school, you know I had a IEP in high school because, due to my health problems that I had, I missed a lot of school. I think I had a 504, but it still was an IEP that I had to, my parents had to go for the meetings, and the teachers, I had to have extra time on tests, and I know that all these, all my students have IEPs, and I've gone over them, and sometimes when you're reading an IEP and then you meet that child, they really don't fit up to that IEP, and it makes you
frequently,
wonder. Yeah, yeah, as these kids, I feel, you know, they could have an IEP when they're smaller, but as they grow up, it's like, of course, their IEP changes totally, but it's almost like they're growing into those stages where, I don't want to say they don't need it, but possibly when you're 3 and now you're, 10, some of my kids are turning 14. It's like you see how much they've grown, even though
yeah,
you don't know them from 3, but just from, like, reading their IEP, like I said, to what they're doing now, it's like a
right,
total 180. Like, they're
totally.
just so much more,
I mean,
you
look,
know.
kids change so much so
Yeah.
quickly, and it's in both directions too. And the
Mm-hmm.
one of my rules as a special ed teacher was that I didn't read an IEP for the first 2 weeks of the school year. I didn't even read them because my rule was I don't want to know. Like I don't want to know anything. I'll figure it out, and if I
Yeah.
can't figure it out, then I'll look at the IEP. So I would always look at the IEP as sort of like, okay, I've spent 2-3 weeks with this kid. I'm not exactly, or frequently I would look at the IEP just for interventions. Like, did the teacher last year have any specific strategies that they used that were really effective, and did they put those on there, and so I can just grab those off of there. But in terms of like figuring out what was going on with the kid specifically, I like to just try to figure that out on my own much more than
Yeah.
because you're just trusting someone else. An IEP is really somebody else's opinion of a
Opinion.
kid,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I feel too.
Yeah,
Because,
and I don't trust, like, look, I'm not saying there's no such thing as kids being emotionally disturbed, but I think sometimes adults pour gasoline on a fire, right? I think sometimes they're,
exactly.
and then it's like, oh, the kid blew up. Well, yeah, a kid blew up, but what preceded that, right? And we have to look at sort of all the causes of that. I'm just curious, going back, when you say health problems as a kid, was that eye related? When did your eye health problem start? Like very first start where you thought there might be something wrong.
I was diagnosed with stage 1 in 2008.
So how
That's
old
when
were
my
you?
eyes, oh my goodness.
Well, we're in 2020. I just lost you there for a second.
20,
We're in
sorry.
2021. So 13 years ago. So
Yeah.
you were 20, you said you're 30.
I'll be 36 this year.
36. So you were
Yeah.
23. So
Yeah.
up until 23, no issues at all. Amazing.
None. I mean, I had glasses like when did I first get glasses? 5th grade. And then by the time I hit 9th grade, I had 20/20 vision again. Like,
Wow.
I didn't need glasses again. When I got into college, I just needed them for like reading and stuff. And but after, God, I'm trying to think. After college, I didn't need them. And
Wow.
I was good right up until, I was working at the school. I love to be busy. I'm a big, like, I got to keep going, going, going. Like, that's just me. Like, I don't like a lot of downtime. So, I was working at the school. I was, after school, I would go home quick, change, and I was either working as a host at Uno, Chicago Bar and Grill, or I was working at Express at the local mall. Like, I was constantly going. So I was up at like, 5:30, 6 o'clock every morning and going until about midnight every night.
Wow.
So I thought when I woke up that morning, I just thought I was like exhausted. I was like, oh my God, I'm just so tired, and then when it happened, I was like, I just knew there was something that just told me I knew something was wrong.
How common is this? Is it incredibly rare for this to happen?
For my age, yeah.
So two questions. That's the first question. And the second question is there any support group? Like, is there one of the things that I think is fantastic about social media? I think social media is good and bad, right? I think it's good because it's a tool, right? It's like a lawnmower. It can cut your foot off or it can make your lawn look really beautiful, right? And social media is the same way. And one of the things that I really like about social media is there's really a community for everything. Right? There's like groups of people that have been through everything and you can find them. Have you been able to find support through social media or through anywhere, really?
Support wise, I would think, or I'd have to say, I did meet a few people through the Central Association from the Blind. They do live locally around me. I don't see them much only because they work full time too.
Yeah.
They're walking down to the bus stop, catching the local bus that comes down. They're going up to either Cab B or wherever they are working at the time. Wherever. I don't mean at the time. Not like they switch jobs all the time, but I do have a lot of support within the Commission of the Blind and Cab B. Social media. I mean, I'm on social media, but I'm not on there a lot to kind of like look for anything like that.
Sure.
My family, my friends have been, so involved in the whole process. I mean, especially the 8 years where I was sitting at home and, wondering, what's the next step? What can I do? And, I've had people, there for me, pushing me forward, telling me,
When
it's
when you
not
say
over yet.
when you say 8 years sitting at home, was that literally, so you went from being this guy who was going from 5 a.m. until midnight to literally sitting at home basically all day?
Yep. Sitting at home, I wasn't able to drive. So I literally was stuck in my apartment, morning to night. um, my mom would, come get me if I had to go get groceries or just to get me out of the house. Um, I did have cab fee and the commission there. I don't want to say daily. I mean, there was a few times that they were there so many days in a row for different things. They wanted me to
Can you explain
learn.
what that is? You said cab fee?
No, cab v, it's Central Association for the Blind and
Got it.
Visually Impaired.
Got it.
They
Got it. Got it.
just they shorten it easily
Got it.
for, and then the commission isn't the commission kind of supports cab v. They kind of work for each other. And they do a lot of things like, they the commission is the reason I have a lot of my magnifiers, and they just set me up with um, a laptop and um, a printer and a huge 32-inch monitor to plug
Nice.
into my laptop. They have so many different, like, great technologies that when I first became visually impaired, I knew nothing about.
Hmm.
It's one of those things that you really don't think about because you're not
Of
that,
course.
you're not, that's
Why
not
would you?
you. Like,
Right.
yeah, but once I found out all the stuff that I, learned with them, I actually went back there for classes. I had to learn how to use a computer again. I had to learn how to send an email again. I had to learn how to type again. It was a long process, but it kept me busy throughout that thing. And it was hard. I
So
don't
you
know.
were relearning those things while during those 8 years at home? Like were you, so
Yes.
that's what you were doing. So, but what
Yes.
was it like, it must have been incredibly lonely and difficult for you to go through all that, having gone from this guy who was all the time on the go to all of a sudden not.
On the go. Yeah. That was my biggest um it's a toss up, that was really hard for me being alone. But I also think that I needed that time to be alone
Mm.
because, when you're alone, you think a lot. And I'm a big thinker. I'm a big worrier. I worry about everything. But I think that what set me forward was that I knew that, when I started going to CABV and seeing the people that were doing it with no sight whatsoever, I knew that I was like, okay, if they can do this, I
Yeah.
can do this.
Yeah.
And I don't care how long it takes me. I'm just going to keep pushing forward because one day I will get back to where I was or possibly more. And I just want to keep that, dream alive. If that's the only thing I ever do, what I'm living right now, I would totally be fine with that.
Wow.
I mean, of course, everybody strives for more, but, I'm just happy to be where I am in the eye spectrum. Like I told you before, my vision's 2800. So, before the surgeries and stuff, it was worse than that. And what I, retained back is really kind of a miracle because they didn't think I was going to retain much back. And my doctor's really, really happy that, my sugar and my diabetes has been awesome.
Hmm.
And, that's one of the main things, is that you got to keep your, sugar under control. And,
So you have to, is your lifestyle an important part of it in general? Like, do you have to keep a healthy lifestyle in
yes,
general, your
yes,
diet and
very
just,
diet, exercise. I have been a diabetic for 28 years.
wow.
I was diagnosed at 7. It that, I can almost actually say to you that that is another struggle that I went through
Yeah.
before all this, which caused all this. Um, it's an ongoing process. Like, if I took my diabetes and my, retinopathy, like, they could be a full-time job in itself,
I'm sure.
to constantly keep on that,
Is any part of any of this hereditary or just kind of landed with you?
No, I'm the only one in my family on both sides of
Lucky
my
you,
mom.
lucky you.
I'm the only diabetic. My mom's my both of my grandmothers were type 2 diabetics, but it was a lot later in life. And nobody had, the eye problems. My grandfather, that I still have left, he um is going blind in one eye, but it's not
Mm.
due to diabetes. He's not a diabetic. So
So
it's
coincidence that I mean, coincidence that you, wow.
yeah. So yeah, I guess, but not that I don't push things down people's throat, and everybody believes in what they want to believe in, but I feel, my own feeling about it is, God only kind of gives you what you can handle. And I feel like I'm a stronger person because I handle a lot of stuff that has been put my way. And, now I just feel like I need to help others with the struggles that I've been through or going through. And I need to put that word out there that it's going to be okay, because what's life if you can't be okay in it?
No question about it. Well, listen, man, these 45-minute blocks go quick. I always ask when we finish up, is there any bit of information or knowledge you would like to leave everybody with?
I'd like to, I guess I'd like to say to people, it's really true when people say don't judge a book by its cover, because, people always say, you know, I would never know that you're blind. I would never know that, this and that, until, like, if I was sitting in front of you, you could see the way that I do
Right.
different things. And then you would kind of almost get the sense of it. So I just want people to know that, just because people have a so-called disability, or people have a, you know, whatever it is, an
Right.
IEP or whatever, that it's okay, because one day they're going to be something, and you shouldn't say bad things about them, because it could be something better than what you are. And, there's nothing better than feeling good about yourself.
No doubt. And
And
there's
as
always
long
a
as you feel
story. I think it's so
always,
important. I think it's so important, with when we work with kids to remember that, a lot of times the behavior that we see is just the symptom of the real problem, which is something deeper. And if we can all keep our eyes open, I guess metaphorically for some people, right? But keep our eyes open and our ears open and pay attention to everything that's going on within a kid and what's really
yeah,
driving the behavior to the forefront and the action to the forefront, it makes it so much easier to really help, the situation. And I think that's the ultimate goal. You don't always have to know the story, but I think it's important to always know that there is a story.
story. Yeah. And always listen, because, sometimes the kids that don't want to talk, if they feel like they have your trust, and they feel like, you're not only their teacher, but you're their friend too, they say things that, they might not feel comfortable telling everybody else.
One of my
And
favorite lines that I learned a long time ago was that if you scramble up the letters in the word listen, you get the word silent. And
yeah,
really good thing to remember. It's impossible to listen in the world without being silent. And I used to teach kids that. I used to say, listen,
yeah,
your struggle, right? Your struggle isn't that a lot of people, oh, that kid talks too much. No, the problem is that you don't know how to listen, right?
so
It's not that you're talking too much. It's that we need to work on your listening skills, and you can't listen while you're talking. You have to be
no,
quiet while you're right. And so really
yeah,
teaching them
yeah,
that
no,
skill.
and and I try to tell the kids that, like, the kids that don't, they get really upset because they have a hard time reading or a hard time spelling. Like, that's what I'm here for. I'm going to show you, and it may not be the normal way for everybody else, but it's going to be normal for them. So as long as they strive to get where they need to be, then, and I can help them. I just want them to know that if I can do it, they definitely can do it. And they have many more years of getting there.
Well, listen, man, you're an inspiration. I appreciate you getting up early to spend a little bit of time with me, and stay in touch. It's great
Yeah,
getting to know
definitely.
you, and thank you for sharing your story.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate it.
All right. Everybody else, don't forget to rate, subscribe, download, and let us know. Let us know the feedback. Let me know what you like, what you don't like. I'll be back with you same time next week. Until then, I say peace. I'm out of here. Good job, man.
Oh my God, I was so nervous.